Sup you beautiful people. Hope you've had a fantastic day. Welcome back to another new episode of What If Naruto Was in the Marvel Universe. If you guys enjoyed this what if, comment down below and let me know. And go ahead and check out other what ifs in the channel after watching this video. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a like, and also share this video with your friends. So now let's start this video. Stark Expo New York. June 2nd, 2010, 21:05 local. Bruce. What the hell man? You left me at Culver. Eric was the first to respond, still casually carrying his sniper rifle. Don't blame me. Blame the other guy. Bruce replied before a gust of wind caused him to shiver. Anyone got a change of clothes? I got some. Naruto said from out of nowhere, which part of the course for him. Catch. He tossed a plastic bag to Bruce. Bruce caught it clumsily using only one hand. He can't exactly take his hands off his loose pants. Thanks. I'll be over there. Bruce awkwardly points to where the outdoor units of the air conditioners were. You guys do what you do, he added before shuffling away. Nice guy. A little low on self-esteem, though. Naruto commented before pulling an envelope from his jacket pocket and walking towards Eric. Nice job. Here's your pay. He then got a little closer and whispered something. Wait for the message from Chala. Eric took the envelope and nodded. He took another look around and started to disassemble his rifle. Okay. One business down, I know I owe some of you favors. Naruto started. I don't even know why I bothered. You guys should deal with this anyway. He added as a whisper. So, what now? Everybody just stared at him weirdly for a moment. Come on, don't make this so awkward now. The last part made Steve's patience crack. You let us deal with those things. You could have ended that with a snap. A lot of people died. People that could have lived. Steve shouted what others were thinking while threateningly approaching Naruto. The difference was, they knew Naruto better. Steve grabbed Naruto's shirt and lifted him up. Tell me why. What were you doing? Naruto just remained nonchalant even with the super soldier lifting him high in the air. He just stared Steve dead in the eye with one eyebrow lifted. However, it didn't take long before someone else reacted, and not in the way Steve expected. Put him down. Eric said while pointing his pistol at Steve's head. You sure you want to do that, kid? Steve asked with a serious tone without removing his eyes from Naruto. Naruto, for his part, was now flashing an amused grin. First of all, I'm pretty sure we're at the same age, Cap. You don't age when you're on ice. Eric started. Secondly, I don't really need to do this. I'm not doing this because you may hurt him, but because he'll kill you. Without blinking an eye seriously. He'll just substitute you with a clone. It's true. Naruto piped in. You want to know why? I can give you the truth or I can give you a more practical reply. You hear the man. He'll answer, so out him down slowly. Eric said while taking a few steps back. Steve, for his part, suddenly let go of Naruto, causing him to fall back to the ground. Naruto made a show of fixing his jacket and dusting himself off. I want to say that it's just too easy if I was more involved, but that answer is obviously not to your liking, so I'll just tell you the thing you might accept. Naruto pulled a knife and easily carved the word Avengers on the ground. Like I said to her. He pointed to the masked Natasha. Best friend. This whole thing is an unsolicited favor to Fury. You know who that is. The one-eyed pirate. I don't know who that is. Bruce asked as he rejoined the group. Just think of him as the king of spies. Bruce nodded, but he's still mostly unsure. Anyway, that. Naruto tossed his blade towards the word Avengers on the ground. Is Fury's endgame. Bringing a group of people to deal with the world-ending scenarios. So this really is a test run. Tony let out. More like a proof of concept, but you get the point. Naruto could feel the increasing hostility from Steve, so he continued. I could just let everything play out, a lot more people could have died. At least that way I don't have a guy shouting to my face like the moral high ground matters. That took some wind out of Steve's metaphorical sails. Don't get me wrong. I didn't do this out of the goodness of my heart. I just need to make sure that when Fury comes knocking, you'll at least be able to work well enough to do your jobs. Another Naruto appeared behind him with something covered with a black fabric on his shoulder. And to make sure my girl doesn't get stuck with the job of herding cats. That's sweet, I guess. Jessica commented. Just imagine reeling in an ego-filled super genius, a super soldier from the 40s with a holier-than-thou attitude, and an awkward scientist with record-breaking anger issues. You'll get what I'm saying. Naruto answered with a shrug. The clone removed the fabric and placed the woman on the ground before disappearing. Betty? Bruce exclaimed while moving towards the unconscious Betty Ross. Pass out from the Hiraishin, but otherwise, she's fine. Naruto told Bruce. Of course he lied when he said that. He knocked Betty after she decided to join Bruce. Where are you off to? Keep in mind she basically said she'll go wherever you go. Or you could just wait for her to come too. Natasha weighed in. But that's boring. No, that's responsible. You're no fun. Naruto pouted. You had enough fun today. Natasha and Jessica said at the same time. Dr. Banner. Tony called out before his faceplate folded up. If you want, I have something to work on that's just a little outside your ballpark. Even got a safe house upstate you could hole up in. That got Bruce's attention. Just the right time too, as Betty was starting to wake up. The first thing she saw when she woke up was Bruce looking at her with a worried expression. She took a quick look around and was astonished at what's happening around her. There's the crazy blonde guy, 4 ninjas, a soldier, and 2 Iron Man. Bruce. A little explanation, please. Betty shakily asked. I don't know. Bruce kissed the top of Betty's head. I'm just riding along on the ride myself. Elizabeth Ross. No need to introduce myself, of course. Tony said as an introduction. I heard you wear the pants in this relationship, Ugh. I'm too tired to say it again. Just do the pitch yourself, Green Bean. Natasha's Safe House, New York. June 3, 2010, 5 o'clock local. Stark made his pitch, and the pair quickly accepted the proposition. The chance to research a new energy source like the Starnium or Potassium was right up their alley. The unique biological interaction of the energy released by the new element was also an interest of study. Now while Tony was discussing terms with the scientists, Naruto started paying his debts. Steve didn't want to cash in on the favor, as I'm not going to take something in exchange for doing what's right. It's a good thing Peggy has some sense in her, and decided to just bank both hers and Steve's tabs. They both left right after the exchange. Tony finally found an end to the thing he always wanted. Something Naruto wouldn't even let him have. Chakra metal. Naruto basically pledged a ton of the stuff, including the chakra alteration of it, which consumed Rhodey's favor, to Tony. Now Tony could do some serious shit with an indestructible metal with customizable properties in his hands. Naruto just knew there would be a lot of sleepless nights coming with that one. Not to mention Pepper's angry face shooing the fuck out of Tony and Naruto as collateral. Nad and Jess decided to copy Peggy's let and hold on to their favors. It's not like Naruto would deny them anything. It was the day after what the media dubbed as the New York Rumble, and Naruto, Nat, and Jess were having a well-earned day off when one of Naruto's clones from across the globe popped and delivered some vital information. Information Naruto couldn't believe he didn't know. That's what he get for respecting privacy. What a stupid idea. Naruto decided to look into it more while the girls were still asleep. He summoned a clone and quickly dismissed it, sending the order across the network. Natasha's Safe House, New York. June 3, 2010, 7:10 local. 2 hours was more than enough time for Naruto to uncover some secrets. Like big fucking secrets. Even Naruto was surprised how the fucker was able to stay off the radar. Who says shield files were reliable? That's what get with not looking up or in the middle of the ocean. What got you stressed out? Jess asked, seeing Naruto's blank look in front of the stove. I want to wait for Nat to come out of the shower before I answer. I don't want to repeat myself. Naruto replied before flipping the omelets. He's cooking 3 omelets while waiting for the toasts. Ugh. A heavy talk. Can't we just push it off like the day after tomorrow? I'm still wiped out. Jess groaned out. I can, but Nat wouldn't appreciate it. I wouldn't appreciate what? Nat asked as she walked into the kitchen. She still has a towel on her hair to dry it off. Perfect. You're here. Naruto transferred the omelets to individual plates and placed them on the kitchen island. The toasts also made it on time, as it dinged off not long after. Talk before eating, eating before talking, or talking while eating. We can multitask. Nat answered while pouring milk in 3 glasses. So what's this thing you want me to hear? Yeah. I'm curious too. Jess placed the utensils on top of a napkin. Well, I was looking into Ivan Vanko to make sure there were no loose ends. Standard after job protocol. You have a protocol? Jess interjected, clearly surprised. Yes. Naruto replied before continuing. I kinda went on a deep dive on Vanko to make sure. Of course, I look into Vanko Sr. He took a bite from the omelet. Vanko Sr. got a 20-year stint at the Gulag from 67 to 87, but got thrown in again from 98 to 03. He died in 2009, but that's not important. What's important is who was his cellmate in his 5-year sentence. Who is it? Jess asked in between bites. I want to play a game with Nat. See if she gets it. Here are the clues. 1, the years he's in prison, 98 to 03. 2nd, he's thrown into a gulag in Siberia. 3, he's a high-value prisoner with some exceptional abilities. Any clue who was Vanko's cellmate? Nat was a smart girl, smarter than most gives her credit. However, no matter how smart someone was, some information would slip by the memory, and Natasha has a lot of it. In her long career, she knows a lot of individuals who were disappeared in one of Russia's infamous gulags. But Naruto wouldn't be stressed if it was someone from Nat's jobs. Hell, he'll be enjoying the shit out of it. So, she concluded that it would be more personal, which narrows it down a lot. By a lot, it means it only leaves one person, since she makes it a habit to make everything not personal. You've got to be shitting me. Nat cursed with as much emotion as she could convey. Who is it? Come on. I'm out of the loop. Jess exclaimed. Nat released a breath before answering. Alexei Shostakov, the Red Guardian USSR super soldier, my adoptive father. Natasha's Safe House, New York. June 3, 2010, 7:20 local. Alexei Shostakov, the Red Guardian USSR super soldier, my adoptive father. Natasha's answer caused Jess's jaw to drop. I taught you grew up in the Red Room. Yes and no. Natasha's reply caused Jess's brow to crease. I was in the Red Room for as long as I remember, but for a brief time from 92 to 95, I was part of a deep cover in Ohio. That's where Alexei became my adoptive father. So, do you have an adoptive mother? Yes. A sister too. Where are they now? Your mother and sister, I mean. Melina got shot during our escape at the end of the mission. I think she died. Nat released a breath. My sister, Yelena, was an orphan. A completely blank slate. I left her, or rather we were separated, but I made sure to stay away. Never looking for her. I can't risk messing up her life. Her eyes were already tearing up by the end of it. Jess got out of her chair and hugged her. But that's not why we're here. She turned towards Naruto. You wouldn't talk about Alexei like this without something deeper. I was going to that. Naruto walked towards the center table and picked up a laptop before returning to the kitchen island. I never did a deep dive on your shield files. I only read the basics cause I don't want to come across as a stalker. He typed in the laptop for a few seconds before turning it around. I never quite knew how you folded into shield, but a quick talk with Alexei cleared up some stuff. You talked with my father, Natasha exclaimed in shock. Less talk and more like hypnotized to talk. Only had 2 hours to get all of this information, so I had to speed it up. Naruto clarified. I might be the best, but I can't stretch time without preparation. Ignoring the thing about time. Why are you interested in my induction test? Because you're not as successful as you think. Naruto pressed enter on the laptop, playing a video. Alexei can be seen sitting on a chair inside a dark room with only a single light shining on his face. Something you would expect from a cliché interrogation scene. One thing to take note though was the blank look on Alexei's face. Hey, man. So can you repeat to me what you just said? Naruto's voice can be heard from behind the camera. I have never really met Captain America. I just want for my comrades to. No? The other thing. About the Red Room. Naruto interrupted. Dreykov managed to keep the Red Room alive. Even after my girl's impressive attempt to end the bastard. Nat's scrunched eyebrow was all the reaction discernible from the my girl comment. Dreykov went underground after Natasha's attempt. I barely hear any whispers anymore. So, what do you know? Dreykov made another super soldier, someone better than me, as hard to believe that is. As for finding Dreykov himself, I only know of one person who can do it. My swift fox. Melina. Mama Melina's alive. Natasha let out. Naruto promptly paused the video. I thought she didn't made it. Is that good news or bad news? Jess asked. Natasha just stared intently at the screen for a moment before answering. I don't know. Welp. Naruto exclaimed. If you can't decide on that one, you'll be a lot more sure on this one. He added before playing the video again. It's just a shame that Dreykov started using the mind control stuff from the North Institute. Natasha can't help but recall the daring escape from Ohio. Yelena should be able to do her job and be proud of it. Naruto closed the laptop and observed Nat's reaction. Natasha felt her insides drop. It's the only reason why she hadn't kept a tab on Yelena. She can't risk for Dreykov to find her sister. After she killed, or rather, failed to kill Dreykov, she just wanted for Yelena to have a normal life. Staying away from her seems like the right thing to do. Now, it just looks like she's fooling herself. Naruto. Natasha started in a serious tone. I never begged before. I will fight, seduce, or manipulate to get what I want. So you should know how serious I am when I say, please help me find and save my sister. Jess just kept her arms around Nat. She's not as close or distant, depending on how you look at it, to her sister as Nat was, but she knows that she'll do just about anything to save Trish. Naruto smiled and pulled something out of his back pocket. He placed it on the table, revealing a thin yellow folder with the emblem of Black Widow in front. Come on. You don't even have to ask, much less beg. Naruto opened the folder. The first page was a long-distance photo of Melina Vostokov on an isolated farm tending to some pigs. I suggest starting with her, or you could give a visit to your dad. He might just be bitter enough to take down Dreykov with you. Like a family outing. Your choice. Stark Apartment, New York. June 3, 2010, 9 o'clock local. The Stark, New York apartment, aka Stark 3-floor penthouse suite, was the temporary residence of the family for the East Coast. This one of Tony's properties peppered across the world. This one, in particular, could be considered as a safe house as this was registered under a holding company owned by one of his aliases. As to why they're using this apartment rather than use the newly renovated mansion upstate, it's just that they'll be closer to both the Expo and the Stark Tower construction. Pepper couldn't help but release a sigh of relief when she saw Tony eating cereal with Morgan. Yesterday's debacle made her worry so much. She made a point not to watch the news last night. Tony only came home and went to bed when Pepper was already in bed, though not yet asleep. She was only able to fall asleep when she felt Tony settle beside her. So when she woke up without Tony on the bed, she can't help but made to think of the worst possible scenario. It still weirds me out when I see you eat cereal, Pepper said after releasing she didn't know she was holding. I know. I'm disgusted with myself, Tony replied sarcastically with an exaggerated shiver. Oh, stop it. Pepper kissed Tony on the lip and Morgan on the crown of her head before sitting beside Morgan. So, Morgan, what do you want to do today? Can we watch WALL-E? Morgan asked with white puppy dog eyes. Again? Why don't we watch something else? Tony countered with exaggerated movements. But Daddy, WALL-E's cool. He's just like Dummy, Butterfingers, and you. Please. I can't argue with that logic, Tony commented with a shrug. Let's just finish our breakfast, hot princess. Yes. During the short exchange between Morgan and her husband, Pepper managed to make herself a salad for breakfast. The family continued with the light conversation, while adults were deftly ignoring last night's events and knowingly pushing off their responsibilities later in the day. It's a good thing Pepper already tasked the PR and law departments to head off any possible backlash. They've been given one simple instruction: pile everything on Hammer and Ross. Morgan and Tony were just waiting for Pepper to finish her salad when Jarvis spoke up. Sir, you have a phone call. I thought we agreed that you'll field all calls. Of course, sir. But this call came from one of your personal numbers, Jarvis replied. This one, in particular, is dedicated to Mr. Uzumaki. Naruto. He never used that number before. He just pops out like a pimple. It's not Mr. Uzumaki. A woman named May Parker is the one who's calling. She claims that Mr. Uzumaki gave her that number. Now, that's odd. Ignoring the fact that Naruto just gave his number away nilly-willy, what could be the reason for him to do it? There's a lot of scenarios running through his head, from something as stupid as a prank to world-ending events. Like May Parker may be a cliché supervillain or something. Put her on the speaker, will you? Tony ordered, causing Pepper to raise her eyebrow in curiosity. Yes, sir. After a short pause, an adult voice spoke up a little hesitantly. Hello. I'm May Parker. A friend of yours named Naruto gave me this number. I'm looking for Mr. Stark. Well, you reached him. Now, why is a virtual stranger calling me on this lovely morning after a very hectic night? Tony replied with his public persona voice. He said to call this number if my kid and I quote as smart as I think he is. May released an audible. I'm gonna level with you. I don't like you before. I'm on the fence now. But you're my kid's #1 hero. I firmly believe that my kid is going to change the world, and loath of me to admit it, but he'll reach his dreams if you're involved in any way. Tony, for all intents and purposes, was the richest man alive. That means there were not many people not close to him who would talk to him that way. The last stranger who did that ended up being his wife. So there's a part of him screaming to just listen. He made eye contact with Pepper, asking for advice, but all she gave him was a small shrug and an amused smirk. Give the kid's name. Tony could yell that May was hesitating, but she eventually gave the name. Peter. Peter Parker. Stay on the line. I'll give him a quick check on second thought. I'll just call you. Tony didn't wait for a reply before ordering Jarvis to hang up and compile a data packet for one Peter Parker. Come on, let's watch an interracial robot movie, while Jarv does all the work. Tony. Pepper scolded, a little mortified with Tony's weirdly on-point description. She helped Morgan to the ground before walking towards the living room with Tony not far behind. He made sure to clean up the table and place the dishes in the dishwasher. Do you want to do it, baby? Yes. Morgan exclaimed excitedly. Jarv. Can you play WALL-E, please? It would be my pleasure, little miss. The 80-inch UHD TV lowered from the ceiling while the mirrors darkened and the lights dimmed. The movie played right after the TV was set. Tony sat down beside Morgan, sandwiching the princess. He reached for Pepper's shoulder and pulled her closer, cuddling both of his girls. What did you think was Naruto thinking? Pepper asked a few minutes into the movie. She made sure to lower her voice as to not disturb Morgan. Something he will laugh about, I guess. You know the guy. Yup. The family just enjoyed being with each other until the movie ended. It ended at the right time as Pepper would have enough time to prepare for lunch. Tony decided to look into the kid in the meantime. He decided to do it on the table so he can look over at Morgan while she's coloring on the start pad. Tony knocked on the table, causing a holographic screen and keyboard to appear. It's time for a show and tell, buddy. Tony said out loud. Peter Parker, 9 years old. Born to doctors Richard and Mary Parker, deceased. Tony's eyes widened hearing the name. The Parker's death was one of the tragedies of the scientific community, particularly in the field of biology. They were making some major headways into gene splicing before their plane crashed. His current legal guardians are Ben and May Parker. Richard and Ben Parkers were brothers. Currently enrolled in the 5th grade at John Colgate. He has an impressive academic record. Nothing lower than A other than mandatory physical education and art class. I should say that there are multiple recommendations for skipping grades, but the Parkers wanted Peter to remain with his peers. Tony was reading the compiled file while Jarvis continued with his explanation. There were also some public access photos of the kid and the Parkers. One photo, or rather video, in particular, that got his attention came from the onboard camera of a Hamadryn armor. No way. Tony breathes out. Come on Pep, take a look at this. Pepper came over and looked at the screen. It showed a kid in an Iron Man mask and toy repulsor aiming for a Hamadryn. The drone was about to blow the kid away with a tank cannon before Tony swooped down and took down the drone. That's the Peter Parker. Tony paused right after the armor flew away. There's a short stretch of silence with Pepper just staring at a still of the kid aiming the toy repulsor at the drone. She can't also help but also look out the school picture of Peter Parker and mentally note how much a young Tony and Peter look alike. They were so like that she might just fool herself into thinking that Peter was Tony's son. Peps, honey, you got your work cut out for you, Pepper said after shaking herself. Tony can't shake the feeling that his smart and intuitive wife just predicted his future. Jarv, call back May Parker, would you? Dialing now. Omake. Tony Stark as President 1. There were only 2 times in Tony's life that he fell completely out of control, the year after his parents' death and his 3-month vacation in Afghanistan. This doesn't mean he's out of control right now like he's on a freefall. It feels more like using a parachute. He's still going down, but at least he could steer. How did it come to this? Tony let out with dread in his voice. I know I made a lot of mistakes in my life, but I don't deserve this. Don't over-exaggerate and it's your fault really. Pepper replied through the comms. No. It's drunk Tony's fault. He just had to run his mouth with the camera on. Tony exaggeratedly countered. He's currently disconnecting the building from the grid. Isn't there law somewhere preventing a close relationship between a presidential candidate and the CEO of a multi-billion-dollar company? Not from what legal can find. Pepper answered while looking at the building plans. I know we talked about this, but why don't you just withdraw? That's the kicker. Tony really wanted to withdraw multiple times, since this thing is such a time commitment. However, Stearns and his factions attempt to get a hold of his armor, and Ellis's half-hearted attempt to prevent this, after he kept the weapon division open to help the people, he decided to just do more. To be more. That's where it all started, a drunken rant, and now he's running for president as an independent candidate, which seemed like a good idea at the time, not so much now as the work was starting to pile up now. Anyway, is the power looking? Levels are holding steady. Sir? Jarvis interjected. Agent Coulson is being held by your Secret Service detail. He says it's a matter of national security correction world security. I'm still unavailable. How does it look? Pepper asked with a bit of worry. Like Christmas, with a little more me. I'm afraid he's insisting. A formal request from S.H.I.E.L.D. has been filed to the Secret Service. Special Agent Dawson and Haggerty are escorting Agent Coulson to the suite. Jarvis interjected again. Shouldn't he be talking to the president, not Tony, if it's about national security? Pepper asked rhetorically. Besides, I'm out not in. Tony added while his armor was removed automatically while walking towards the penthouse. The elevator dinged at the same time as he entered the room. The door opened revealing Agent Coulson while being flanked by his designated Secret Service security agent. Phil. I'm happy to see you, but couldn't this have waited until tomorrow? Pepper greeted while hugging him. Yup. Consultation time is Thursday every other week 4 to 5 p.m. Tony sarcastically added. I'm sorry but this can't wait. Phil answered apologetically while handing over a data pack. Tony didn't even try to reach for the computer, so Pepper took it and placed it in his hands. He opened it causing a holographic summary of the Avengers Initiative. I thought this was scrapped. Tony asked out loud. We have a legitimate threat for an alien invasion. It's all hands on deck. We need everything we can muster. Then bring it to the White House. I don't see what I can do with this. We need Iron Man. Stark Apartment, New York. June 3, 2010, 1300 hours local. After a quick chat with May Parker, Tony decided to give the kid a chance. He sent ordered one Stark tablet to the Parkers. This tablet, which was permanently connected to StarkNet and Jarvis, was programmed to spit out math and science questions from the first grade to postdoctorate. Peter Parker would have a month to answer as many questions as he can. The questions would be curated and controlled by Jarvis, making sure Peter would answer a good amount of questions in a wide range of topics, so Tony could get a handle on the kid's brain. Jarvis would also provide all the references needed to answer said questions. The tablet should arrive the day after tomorrow, as Stark Industries technicians still need to make the necessary upgrades to make it more child-friendly. Nevertheless, Jarvis would just give Tony the results after the month was up. He just needs to decide what he'll do from there. She already called, huh? That was quick. I thought she'll mull it over. Naruto suddenly said from behind the Stark family, surprising them. The Starks were just having a short break after their lunch, and they were hoping to have a lazy afternoon, but it looks like it ain't happening. Morgan quickly jumped over the couch and leaped towards Naruto's arms. Naruto, where did you go last night? Morgan asked with a tilt of her head and a slight lisp. I watched a movie. Not suitable for princesses like you. Naruto countered with a bop on Morgan's nose. It's rather violent. Naruto, Pepper called out, warning him not to say too much. And that's my cue. Naruto pulled back. He carried Morgan and walked around the couch. Nat and I will be gone for a while. Maybe a week at most. What for? Tony asked. I'm not sure I'm supposed to tell anyone, but I'll probably share it after we return. Naruto replied with an apologetic smile. All you need to know is we're making a mess in the motherland. That got Tony and Pepper's attention since it's not even a day ago when they tied up a loose end from a certain Russian. Banco? Tony inquired. You would think so, would you? But no. Naruto answered. I just found something out while looking into Vanko. By the way, you don't have to worry about anything relating to Vanko. That's a good thing to hear. Pepper said in relief. Naruto felt Morgan pulling at his hair. Yes, Maguna. You're leaving, Naruto? Morgan asked with slightly teary eyes. Mimi would leave for a bit cause Auntie Nat needs help, but my lookalike will stay here with you. Naruto replied. If you really need to call Mimi, just have Jarvis call Auntie Jess. You can handle that, can't you, Jarv? I have Miss Jones' number saved in my database. Since when? Tony inquired, a little left out. Since your wedding, sir. Ha. Didn't know about that. I asked him to take it in case of emergencies. Naruto added. And speaking of emergencies, you still have some tags I've given you, and Morgan here has her bracelet, so I can show up anytime. He put down Morgan, who reluctantly let go of him. I'll whip something up for her to eat later, but after that, I'll have to go. Nat can't wait for this to get over with. He then moved towards the kitchen. Right. Let me help you. Pepper stood up and went with him. Outskirts of Astana, Kazakhstan. June 5, 2010, 10 o'clock local. Natasha and Naruto were quick to arrive in Kazakhstan, where Nat's contact was supposed to meet them. Naruto had argued that he could handle everything himself, but Nat was rather adamant about doing most of the job herself. He has been effectively delegated into an information source and a safety net in case things go sideways. They even went as far as using a traditional way to travel. Using aliases to jump both passenger and cargo planes to arrive in Kazakhstan relatively undetected but trackable by everyone who knows our itinerary, Akka the One-Eyed Pirate and Legolas. Natasha decided to inform Fury and Barton about this particular development because taking down Red Room was her initiation mission for S.H.I.E.L.D. Of course, Naruto warned her that the Red Room has a history of working with Hydra. The moment S.H.I.E.L.D. becomes aware that the Red Room was still operational, they might re-establish their alliance and once again fucking the world over. Good thing Fury listened. He placed Nat on vacation, effectively giving her free rein. He also filled out a backdated non-digital paperwork for mission operation, in case Nat would need an extract plan. Right now, the couple was driving a closed van, which was prepared by Naruto in advance, northward towards the Russian-Kazakhstan border. They were going to meet Nat's contact at an abandoned farm 50 kilometers from the capital. Nat's contact, Rick Mason, was a former British Navy support analyst turned S.H.I.E.L.D. agent under logistics, and finally, one of the fastest rising independent contractors. He had made a name for himself from only 2 years of active service. He has reportedly been able to deliver almost any product given enough time and money. He can also introduce customers to groups or individuals who do wet work. Apparently, Naruto was the only one he couldn't reach. Rick Mason uses a debit system as a form of payment. No credit whatsoever. The client needs to deposit money into Mason's network of bank accounts. This money is what he would use to avail the customers of his services. And just like most banks, he has a maintaining balance. Anywhere from $50 grand to $10 million, depending on how reliable was the customer and the usual purchase size. You're really not going to say anything? Natasha let out after she finally gave up on thinking about it. No way. We're not going to use that thing anyway. Naruto answered while lounging on the passenger seat with his feet up on the dash. You know I could just reach out back and lift the tarp, right? Would you do it though? Natasha bit her lower lip, her curiosity fighting her pride. That's what I thought. Naruto brought his sunglasses down to his nose and looked around with his eyes. He looked towards the meeting place in particular. We're close. You guys good? I know. That's why Clint and I use him. The pair continued with their small talk until they reached the rendezvous spot. When they arrived, a 6-foot-tall, African-British man wearing a leather jacket, shirt, and jeans was sitting at a bench outside an abandoned home while eating an apple with a switchblade. A nondescript maroon Lada sedan was parked near him. Rick only looked up when he saw Nat and Naruto's van driving down the dirt road. Rick stood up and waited for the van to stop in front of him. Nat was the first one to get out and gave Rick a friendly hug. They knew each other during Rick's time as a S.H.I.E.L.D. agent. He's one of the few friends of Nat. Naruto stepped out of the van carrying both his and Nat's duffel bag. He slung both bags over his shoulder and extended his right hand towards Rick. No Ulmer. Naruto introduced himself. Rick Mason. Nice to meet you. Rick shook Naruto's hand before turning towards Nat. Alias. Yeah. Too many if you ask me. Nat answered with a shrug. That alias means he likes you since he gave you an alias with an N and U. That's the first letters of his name. She added, causing Naruto to glare at her. But you'll probably be more interested with his professional name. What is it? Rick asked out of his curiosity. I'll tell you before we leave. Naruto interjected. Okay. Rick rolled out. Come on, let me show you guys what I got. Nat and Rick walked towards the back of the barn, while Naruto trailed a few steps back. Okay. I gotta ask. Rick whispered. Who's that guy? Long story short, he's my boyfriend. I guess. Maybe fiancé would fit better. Nat and Naruto had already talked about doing an Uzumaki-style wedding. You're not giving me much here. Cause you can connect the dots the moment you know his work alias. He'll tell me, right? Cause my curiosity's piqued. Maybe. Most likely. Nat answered right before turning the corner of the barn. Right in front of them was tall turboprop Boeing V-22 Osprey with some noticeable modifications. The Osprey in front of them has a more angular shape similar to the Quinjet. The usual military gray was changed into pitch black. The exposed weaponry like the A230 chain gun below the plane was usually found under the Apache attack helicopter. What the hell? Nat said. Told you I'm the best. Impressed. Rick gloated. The US military and DARPA made a prototype for a possible replacement for a VTOL attack gunship. Naruto supplied, surprising Rick a bit since that was supposedly classified. Only 3 prototypes were made and here's one of them. Rick just stared at Naruto for a moment before speaking. You're connected, aren't you? Nah. Naruto replied with a mysterious smile. I just like to snoop around. I'll just bring the van around. He added before dropping both bags and going back. You never brought that much equipment before. Rick commented. I have everything I need in the bag. Nat gestured towards the duffel bags. You know what I say. Pack light, pack fast. So why the van? The Osprey could carry it in its cargo hold, but it'll shorten your range. Naruto drove the van towards the back of the barn where the Osprey was placed. He made sure to place the rear doors of the van right in front of Nat and Rick. He got out, walked toward the back before opening it, revealing 2 pallets covered by a large tarp. He reached for an exposed handle at the bottom of the pallet and pulled at it hard. This caused both pallets to slide from the bed of the van to drop toward the ground. Okay. What's that? Rick asked. Naruto just smiled before removing the tarp, revealing 2 blocks of $100 bills. Add this to Nat's account. Naruto informed Rick. How much is that? Rick asked. $400 million of clean bills. Huh. Rick turned towards Nat. Well, that effectively quintuples your account. Where'd you get the cash? Nat asked with a raised eyebrow. Drug lords, cartels, and terrorists. You know. The usual. Naruto answered with a shrug. And that cash is all clean. I checked all 400 million serial numbers. Bullshit. Rick commented. I know, right? Took me a whole day to verify everything. So that's where all the missing SHIELD surveillance cameras and computers have gone off to. Natasha said as an afterthought. I thought you said that this guy is useless compared to you. Hey. Rick objected almost immediately while glaring at Naruto. Yeah. He's basically useless, but you know me. I support small businesses. Naruto said with a deadpan tone while staring at Rick dead in the eye. Natasha can't help but laugh hearing Naruto's serious statement. She then walked towards the duffel bags, picking them up before going towards the Osprey. Come on. Stop kicking Rick's pride. Nat called out to Naruto. I'll contact you if I need another transport in the next few days. Naruto followed Nat towards the Osprey before remembering his word before pulling out a business card and handing it to Rick. He then jogged towards the aircraft. Rick, on the other hand, quickly looked at the card, only seeing a picture at the front. The face of the fox with 9 tails circling behind it. He quickly figured out what that means. The blonde asshole he just met was the famous infamous Ninetales. Nat must have met him during her and Clint's manhunt. He turned the card over expecting to find a contact number, but only finding a single sentence. Call Nat. Kazakhstan Russian airspace. June 5, 2010, 12 o'clock local. You enjoyed that. Maybe too much, if you ask me. Natasha stated with certainty as she flew the Osprey along the Russian air defense zone. I'd be lying if I say I didn't. Naruto replied at the passenger seat. Natasha gave Naruto a sideways glance before smirking while shaking her head. You're jealous. I'm not jealous. Naruto quickly replied. Maybe too quickly for some. You hit. I'm really not. Naruto defended. He's just like you before. Using every resource he can to find me just to have the bragging rights to say that he's the first person that could facilitate contact between me and customers. I'm just gonna say that I believe you and end it at that. Nat said with a disbelieving tone. So, where are we going? I gave you the files, right? Yes, you have. I just... Naruto looked at Nat when she suddenly paused with the sentence. He saw a relatively rare look. Natasha with an unsure expression. I know what I want. I want to save my sister, kill Dreykov, and put an end to the Red Room. If you want to just get this over with, we can head straight to the Red Room, kidnap Yelena, and blow everything sky high. Naruto told her with a dispassionate tone. Or you could aim a little higher and rebuild what you had before. It wouldn't be the same, of course, but I'll argue that it's better because it's real. He reached for Nat's free hand and looked at her dead in the eye. Don't tell me you don't want that. The moisture forming on Nat's eyes was answer enough. The small knot just further confirmed it. Then we got a gulag to visit. You can find the way, right? Nat just glared at Naruto, causing him to laugh. 7th Circle Prison, Siberia, Russia. June 6, 2010, 2 o'clock local. After a total of 8 hours of travel, 6 hours of which were spent in flying while 2 hours raiding Russian gas dumps spread throughout the country to refuel, we finally reached the 7th Circle Prison. One of the most isolated, hostile, protected, and dangerous gulags, and that's saying something. In the event of a mass breakout, the whole prison was designed to be buried under dozens of feet of snow by avalanches from the surrounding mountains. This was where the most dangerous and/or high-profile prisoners were thrown into. A number of enhanced individuals, usually from failed experiments, were also contained in this prison. All of these prisoners combined caused dozens of deaths a year, and considering there were only around 200 prisoners at any one time, it's a staggering amount. Supposing that the 7th Circle of Hell was where the souls of the violent were supposedly punished, the name of the prison seems to be more apt. Natasha landed the Osprey at the other side of the mountain to the north of the prison, and hid it in the forest. The pair then started their treacherous flight up the mountain. Even Natasha, with her enhanced physique, could feel the strain of the climb on her body. It's no wonder no one had successfully escaped the prison. Naruto created a camouflage nest on the summit of the northern mountain, while Natasha started the surveillance of the prison. Naruto had already given her the layout of the 7th Hell, along with dossiers of the staff and prisoners. She just needs to confirm his information before continuing with her battle plan. They really wanted to make this prison as inconspicuous as possible. Natasha commented while lying prone on the ground and looking through her binoculars. They even hid their anti-air defenses as abandoned towers or mining equipment. Well, this is a black site. A specialized gulag black site disguised as a regular gulag black site disguised as a regular gulag, disguised as an abandoned mining facility owned by the state. Naruto replied while tracing his fingers across Natasha's back. If Natasha was noticing this, she didn't show it. The number of covers for this place stops most from looking further into it, with how many prisons are disguised as state assets. It's like Inception. Natasha disengaged from the binoculars and turned towards Naruto with a weird look. Isn't that the movie that's supposed to come out next month? I was excited, so I sent a clone inside Warner and watched the unedited version. Naruto replied like it was a normal thing to do. Spoiler alert, it's not a dream. And I thought you loved us. You should, at the very least, invited Jess and me. Naruto sounded out, staring gobsmacked at Natasha. Oh, look, it's the warden. Natasha gave Naruto one last annoyed look before looking through her binoculars again. She indeed saw the warden at one of the steel bridges overlooking the prison. He was having a smoke while checking the prison from the safety of the overhead bridges and towers. He's the only guy with access to the bombs that would bury the whole prison. The system even has a dead man switch that would detonate the bombs the moment he flatlines within the range of the prison. Paranoid, I know. What happens if he leaves the prison during his vacation time? The prison has 3 wardens, each serving for 6 months before vacationing for a year. Well, it's not really a vacation since they have waiting offices as cover. The serving warden can't leave without the other warden present, cause that might cause the mountain to blow up. Loyalty? Extremely loyal. They're all students of Soviet old guards and subscribe to their doctrines. They'll be more likely to torture their family before letting the people inside of there to get out. Natasha took another 3 hours to observe the guards and study the data packet before being satisfied. Alright, let's go back to the Osprey. I'll tell you the plan on the way. 7th Circle Prison, Siberia, Russia. June 6, 2010, 1600 hours local. Alexei Shostakov, the Red Guardian. The Soviets' only official success in creating their super soldier in response to USA's Captain America. Aside from his impressive physical and mental statistics, the Red Guardian's image was designed to stoke a sense of patriotism from the Soviet people. Alexei himself was a 6'3", 45-year-old, with dark blonde hair and blue eyes. He used to have a fit, heavy lifter physique, but years of a sedentary lifestyle caused him to fatten up. His several tattoos and scruffy beard makes him rather intimidating. The betrayal of his beloved country and years in a high-security prison caused him to develop some rather concerning personality faults on top of his existing issues: patriotism bordering on fanaticism, skewed morals, aggressive behavior, paranoia, and mood swings. Although one thing, in particular, was directly caused by the Soviet military themselves with the help of Dreykov and Hydra. Alexei has a delusion that he fought against Captain America several times during missions. These were not something pulled out from nothing. The Red Guardian has indeed fought with a real super soldier before, just not Captain America. There were multiple instances when Hydra loaned the Winter Soldier to the Soviet military and to General Dreykov himself. Dreykov used the Winter Soldier to train the Black Widows. In exchange, Hydra can give a defined number of missions to the Red Room. The symbiotic relationship between the two caused an exponential growth between the two groups. The Soviets, on the other hand, used the Winter Soldier to test the capability of the Red Guardian against an established super soldier. That's where they determined that the Red Guardian was generally stronger and tougher, but has lower agility and stamina. However, it was also determined that the Red Guardian was significantly less effective than the Winter Soldier due to several reasons. That's one of the reasons why Russia was relatively okay with keeping Alexei in prison, even if he could be a significant asset. Alexei was in his room, laying down and contemplating about his past accomplishments, when a guard tapped his specialized steel door to get his attention. Everyone would be speaking Russian until specified otherwise. "You got a visitor. Stand up and get out of there," the guard shouted with a sneer. The wardens decided that there was no point in cuffing or restricting the movement of enhanced individuals outside of their cell, as they have no realistic way of stopping them, except for outright killing them. Nevertheless, the guards constantly look down at the prisoners as they consider them traitors to the motherland, no matter their circumstances. Alexei, for his part, just stood up and left his cell. He followed the guard towards the management building. They passed through multiple gates and checkpoints. Surprisingly, he wasn't taken to the rarely used visitation room, but towards the warden's office. Two guards were guarding the door, though Alexei believed that the office could be considered a bunker. One of the guards knocked twice before opening the door. Alexei could see the warden happily talking while drinking vodka and smoking cigars with a heavy-set man dressed in a thick camo outfit. Beside him was a large bag with what looked like to be some survival gear, and an SV-98 sniper rifle specially modified for hunting. The heavy-set man turned around, revealing his face. Alexei immediately recognized the man. Abrasha Tarkovsky, the Bloody General. The primary intelligence officer for the Red Army. He has been called the Red General for his fondness of flaying people alive for information. He was also famous for missing from time to time, hunting game from around the world mostly in secret. It looks like he decided to, once again, tackle the wilderness of Siberia. There's no other reason for the man to be here. "The Red Guardian," Abrasha boisterously declared. "It's a pleasure to officially meet you," he said as he stood from his chair and kissed both of Alexei's cheeks. "Though washing yourself more often would be appreciated." He then turned around and looked towards the warden. "Sasha, can you give us some privacy?" "Absolute, complete privacy." The warden just saluted like a perfect soldier before pressing a button from under his desk, probably to turn off all remote surveillance, and started walking out of the room. "Sasha, I would like to talk more later after I finish this small chat." The warden just nodded before closing the door. "Alexei, have a seat, please," he said like he owned the room. "I would like to talk about someone who you know very well." "Who?" Alexei would have rather stayed silent, but his patriotism and the fact that General Abrasha was mostly unconnected to his unjustified incarceration. "Dreykov." That certainly got Alexei's attention since he wants to have his revenge. "What do you want to know?" Abrasha took his time before answering. He took a sip of his drink and a puff of cigar. "Is he still alive?" "Yes," Alexei answered without hesitation. "Do you know where he is?" "No, though I know someone who does." "Who?" "Melina Vostokov. The widow. She's still alive, too?" Abrasha asked more to himself. "Where?" "At a farm outside St. Petersburg." Abrasha stood up and gestured for Alexei to come closer. As soon as Alexei got closer, the general placed a hand around the nape of his neck, where he suddenly felt something pinching at the base of his skull. "Worry no more, Alexei. We're going after Dreykov and we're working on getting you out." General Abrasha let go of Alexei and sat back down. "You can go now and call for Sasha back." I reluctantly nodded before walking out of the room and opening the door. "Make sure to listen to the voice in your head. It will guide you well," Abrasha added before Alexei left the room. After relaying to the guards what the general said, they took Alexei to the mess hall as we finished just after the dining call. They left him alone just after passing through the gate that separates the cell blocks to the management building. He sat down on one of the empty tables and discreetly touched the back of his head. That's when he felt a small bump, like a device, hidden by his long hair. He would complain about it, but General Abrasha was obviously trying to tell him something. Alexei was just about to take a bite of the thing that disguises itself as food, when he suddenly stopped hearing a voice he never thought of hearing again. "Alexei, are you ready to get out?" "Omake." LAPD 7 Precinct, Los Angeles. May 3, 2012, 0830H. Agent Phil Coulson is a man on a mission. It was just 2 nights ago when S.H.I.E.L.D.'s Project Pegasus base was leveled, causing the death of 63 people, and it was just last night when he had to bring Tony Stark into the Avengers program. It's true what he said, they're way past assessments. That doesn't mean he knows why Fury sent him to an LAPD police captain to facilitate a meeting with an eccentric nightclub owner. The man in question can indeed be considered an enhanced. According to the file, Lucifer Morningstar has limited physical invulnerability, super speed and strength, and most notably, a limited psychic ability that can pull out people's desires or cause them to go insane, making him a very effective interrogator. However, his insistence that he is the biblical devil puts his mental status into question, making him a liability to the team, especially in a team made up of atheists, Catholic, and Nordic God. Nevertheless, now is not the time to question Fury. He got out of the standard issue SHIELD SUV and walked towards the front desk while pulling out his SHIELD badge and ID. His suit and badge screamed he was a Fed. "Good morning. Can you point me to Captain Decker's office?" Phil asked in a friendly tone while showing his badge. "Take the elevator to the 5th floor. Head straight down the corridor and loom for the captain's office. You can't miss it. It's the only one with an open door. Unless her husband is there, then it would be closed," the desk sergeant replied. The implication of the last part was clear to Phil, but the lieutenant doesn't seem bothered by it. "Thank you." It didn't take long for Phil to find Captain Decker's office placed at the northeast corner of the building. Even from afar, he could see the hull of Captain Decker's office, floor-to-ceiling glass windows and walls. Rolling blinders could be seen on the top part of the glass wall, in case privacy was needed. He could also see Captain Decker reading through some files. Her dirty blonde hair is put together into a tight ponytail. She's also wearing a beige dress suit on top of a blue blouse. He could practically see her no-nonsense attitude. Phil knocked on the door to get her attention. Captain Decker looked up and did a quick observation. "Yes?" she asked. Phil slowly retrieved his badge from his left jacket pocket and showed it. "I'm Agent Phil Coulson of S.H.I.E.L.D. I'm hoping I could have a moment of your time." "S.H.I.E.L.D. Never heard of it." "That's the way we like it." Phil gestured to one of the open seats. "May I?" "Of course," Decker warily replied. Phil probably sat down on the seat and did another quick scan of the room. He could see the expensive and high-quality items in the room, way above an LAPD captain's pay grade. "What I'm about to say is highly confidential beyond top secret. As an employee of the United States of America, I'm obligated to tell you that the President has ordered to prevent this information from spreading beyond essential personnel and consultants," Phil said in a serious tone. "You wouldn't mind if I asked my superior for identification, right? I'm sorry if I don't just believe an unknown organization or agency." "There's no need. I have this." Phil pulled out a folded piece of paper and slid it across the table. "From the Office of Deputy in Chief for Special Affairs. We coordinate with his office whenever we need the LAPD." It took 2 minutes for Decker to read the authenticated letter from the Office of Deputy in Chief of Special Affairs, meticulously checking the seals and the signature. By the end of it, she looks to be satisfied with it, although her wariness never left. "So, what can the LAPD do for you?" "We don't need the LAPD. Right now, we need something from you." The only reaction he got was a raised eyebrow. "We need to speak with your husband." There are many reactions he expected from Captain Decker. It could be fear or panic from getting found out that his husband is under possible observation by some admittedly sketchy government agency, but exasperation and a small hint of fondness were definitely at the bottom of that said list. She didn't even look a little worried. "What did he do now?" "He didn't do anything as far as we know. We just know that he's an enhanced individual, and we need his help to deal with a situation that threatens the world's security." "Magic? Demons? Or another one of the apocalypses?" "Apocalypse? What the hell? No. Aliens. Ha. That's new. Details. Never mind. He'll just tell me anyway." Decker picked up her cell phone and called a number, but nobody answered, so she called another phone. "Hey Maze, where's Lucifer? Why? So you've got the kids? Alright. Can you wait for Lucifer to pop right back? Somebody wants to talk to him and I think it's important. Sure. See you soon." She ended the call and picked up her landline. "Hey Georgia. Can you push my meetings until after lunch, but be prepared to push it all for tomorrow? I just need to do something. Sure. You're a lifesaver. Lux, Los Angeles. May 3rd, 2012, 9:20 local." It took half an hour for them to arrive at Lux's expansive underground garage. Captain Chloe Decker is one careful woman. She informed the desk sergeant that she was leaving for a while as well as her destination. She didn't allow Phil to ride in her admittedly beautiful black and silver Dodge Charger RT, and just requested for him to follow her. They rode the elevator in silence towards the penthouse, but it stopped halfway. It opened to a beautiful woman in a white sundress, pushing a twin stroller with, well, twins in them. A baby girl with black hair and a baby boy with dirty blonde hair. "Chloe, what are you doing here?" the woman exclaimed before pushing the stroller inside the elevator and hugging Decker. "This is Agent Coulson. He wants to talk to Lucifer." Decker hugged the woman back before kneeling in front of the babies and played with them a bit. "How are you, my little angels?" "Oh, what's it about?" the woman asked in a slightly airy tone. "Can't tell you. You just have to ask Lucifer," Decker replied while still playing with her babies. "There's nothing in Morningstar's file about kids." Fury had to know about this. We have no idea if his kids acquired any of his enhancements. We need his help against aliens. Phil interjected in a deadpan manner. There's no point in hiding it if Morningstar would just talk about it. Oh, that's new. The woman replied in the same tone as Captain Decker. The elevator continued towards the penthouse. As soon as it opened, the strong scent of sulfur and ash invaded his nose. Detective. A British-sounding man walked out from one of the hallways. It looks like he just came out of the shower, wearing a hastily worn three-piece suit. He's a tall man with a swimmer's physique, onyx black hair and eyes. Extremely attractive and charismatic. Lucifer, Decker said before kissing Lucifer on the cheek. This is Agent Phil Coulson. He wants to talk to you. Phil slowly approached Lucifer Morningstar. Like Captain Decker said, I'm Agent Phil Coulson. Director Fury sent me. Nikki, what does old Nick want? Thanks for listening. I do hope you enjoyed. If you want the next part of this video, like, subscribe and comment down below, and turn on the bell notification. And also check out other videos that I have created and enjoy. See you in the next video. Peace.